Hello and welcome to SquishiVision, where I'm about to give my thoughts on She-Hulk Superhuman Law, the second episode. I've just watched it, so this is my oh, I've also just dropped food in my pants. I've just dropped it, so I've just watched it, so this is my immediate thoughts, having just done so without, scrubbing through, picking out details. This isn't about kind of Easter eggs, it's just my immediate reaction. I enjoyed last week's episode, to my surprise, because I thought it'd be a bit more cheesy in terms of the humour, but it wasn't the case. And since last week, it's become pretty apparent that this show has pissed off a lot of fragile men, and that's always a plus. This episode, which seems, for some reason they've, despite the fact they've got the freedom of a streaming service where they could produce whatever, they go for very short half-hour episodes that often feel faster and quicker than they are, because I guess the pacing. But in a kind of situation of reality occurs, Jennifer Walters gets fired from her job, which doesn't seem fair, but seems somewhat realistic, and no one's going to hire her because of, I guess, in law, it's all about optics, and there's a lot of kind of things to balance, so it kind of makes sense that she's fired, actually, all things considered. So, she struggles with that. There's a segment with her family which doesn't do much advance the plot, but it's a nice bit of character building. It's a nice bit of kind of showing what her family dynamic is. Father's very supportive, which is, again, one of the really nice things we can do with the MCU that we couldn't really do in visual adaptation, cartoon or other adaptations or even film adaptations of superhero things, is show that kind of family dynamic, because a lot of the superheroes they focus on have secret identities, and superheroism isn't as normalized. But now it's interesting to see kind of a world where superheroism is so normalized. That's what I'm actually looking forward to, that we can actually explore that kind of dynamic. So, comforts her, and then as she's drinking, she a lot of situations, actually, she gets fired while she's presumably off work in a bar, drunk. I just don't think that's how you meant to fire people. And then she gets offered a job when she's at a bar, drunk. And again, I don't think that's how you're meant to hire people. I mean, I've never hired someone, I don't think. But I'm pretty sure that's not how you're meant to do it. Also, pretty sure this isn't meant to be peaking the way that it is, but I guess it is. So they hire her, and it's revealed that they want the superhero, her version of her She-Hulk, to front a law firm. And they're very insistent that she has to appear in her superhero form, which seems a bit controlling over her body, but maybe that's kind of the point. And for some reason, both they and Emil Bronsky want her to represent him, despite the fact that there's this obvious kind of conflict of interest. Maybe it's just to know that she's the right lawyer for the job. Maybe they think getting the She-Hulk to defend someone who's trying to murder her cousin would kind of reinforce the whole forgiveness aspect. Again, a lot of laws, but optics. And she goes to meet Emil Bronsky, who we see for the first time in MCU in over 13 years, and I'm not sure I've seen Tim Roth in much else, so it's kind of like one of this, and this is the same with Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man. It's like, oh, he's now like a decade or so older. So I might go back and watch those scenes again, because I really love Tim Roth's Emil Bronsky in Incredible Hulk. I really liked Incredible Hulk as a film. I know it's kind of considered for some reason the black sheep of the MCU, and one of the earliest kind of, let's pretend this never happened because it wasn't that good. But I actually think it was a really good superhero film. I think it was definitely one of the best Incredible Hulk films. I mean, it's not much competition, but I think it was definitely one of the best. And I think it did I said this last week, and I'll probably keep saying it. But so yeah, and that was one of my favourite things I'm very sad that we never got a chance to revisit about the abomination. Abomination. It's a word I struggle to say. So yeah, I'm kind of thrilled how we explore a character. I from the first appearance, it's pretty clear. There's something a bit. It's not clear if he's kind of genuine about his rehabilitation. Some of the stuff he says is kind of sus. Some of it seems very rehearsed, but other parts seem kind of genuine. She seems to believe him, and I mean, I'm on the fence about how fallible I think. I mean, she's definitely like, you know, characters can be flawed, but also you don't want them to be incompetent. And I'm not sure it serves the show well narratively to set up to be that incompetent to believe someone like this. So I'm not sure. It's possible that she's right, and he seems at least like we're meant to assume he's genuinely repentant. He does, yeah. And you know, we're going to see much more of him. And then she speaks to, I'm glad she does this. She asks Banner for permission, and Banner's like, you won't ask me for permission, you would do it anyway, but I give you my blessings nonetheless. And he says the phrase, I was a different man back then, literally. And then Jennifer Walters like, haha, at the camera. And I'm like, yes, Edward Norton reference. Edward Norton's appearance is now canon in the MCU. As someone who doesn't like recasting, and I think, again, I know it's fiction, I know it's like theatre, and I know it's like suspension of disbelief, but I've never enjoyed having to see two very different appearing people be the same character. And it's not just appearance, it's the way that they perform and act, and it's like, well, they're different, you know? I always kind of headcanoned that they are the same person, but I mean, technically the Hulk is a shapeshifter. Not in the sense we usually refer to the kind of character in terms of someone who can like change their appearance at will and to whatever, but he can shapeshift between two forms. And it used to be not a conscious decision either way, so he didn't have control over it, but he was still technically a shapeshifter, and there's no reason why a particularly extraordinary shift from him to the Hulk and the Hulk back to Banner would deform his appearance to what he would be used to. And I was like, that's just my weird girl headcanon. And this kind of, I guess, confirms that he at least had a different appearance back then for whatever reason. But I love the kind of reference to that in a way that only this show could do. And then she agrees to take the case, and there's this nice kind of show back to Shang-Chi where footage is leaked of the Abomination being in that fighting ring, and there's this thing where Wong's gonna come in. I'm like, Wong, yes, Wong appearance. So yeah, I mean, there's not much that really happened in the episode, but I think it was pretty decent. You know, there wasn't any kind of, I know there was like, so I guess we should probably I said I wasn't going to talk about it much, so I'm not going to voice my own opinion, but I'm going to voice my assessment of what I think has been happening, and someone call me out if I'm being inappropriate here. In terms of the whole, was the call out to sexism too on the nose? There seems to be, so obviously there will be the people, both women and men, who acknowledged the scene for what it was and liked it. I've seen plenty of women reviewers be like, I relate to that scene so much. A lot of male reviewers being like, no, this is how I understand the world to be for women, from listening to women. And there's a big critique. There's obviously a critique from men who are basically just like, I don't want to be called out when I'm watching MCU shows. Art shouldn't challenge me because I don't understand the point of art. And we can dismiss those out of hand because they're irrelevant. And then there's other criticism that primarily comes from women viewers. And again, not all, because I'm not going to speak for all women for obvious reasons, but I think the genuine criticism there is that the intent and the message was the right message, and it was an accurate message, but the execution was flawed, which I think is valid. I'm not siding one way or the other because it's not my place to do so. There are plenty of women who can voice their way on this opinion, on this discussion. But I don't think anyone's calling out the message. Oh, well, no one who we care about is calling out the message. So yeah, that's essentially kind of what happened last week. And it wasn't any kind of moments here so much, except for I think that male lawyer who again is meant to kind of play this slimy role was basically like, you only did that just to like win your case, and Jennifer Walters was like, I don't really care enough about you to even bother discussing this with you. And I was like, yes, it's exactly a response you should have. Also, what I should probably do is just thinking about it, I should probably move this logo to the opposite corner where it's not interfering with that pause sign. That's not great. And now I'm gonna be distractingly looking at my screen from the stream. That's a couple seconds behind. See that logo move across the screen and be like, ooh, it moved. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, the Brexit fourth wall wasn't particularly obnoxious. I a little bit more where she zones out because she's talking to us, breaking the fourth wall, and her boss is like explaining things to her and she's not listening, and then he turns around and goes, so what do you think? And her response is perfect, and I have to steal this in the future when I'm zoned out, which does a lot. I do a lot as an autistic person, where she was just like, I'm agnostic to the idea. I'm like, what does that actually mean? That sounds like a good answer to give. Probably doesn't make any sense, but you don't want to like be like, but you feel like it should make sense. Much like why my voice keeps peaking randomly, even though I'm not particularly raising my voice at any particular. It's weird. My mic keeps peaking at certain points, but they're not the points where I'm speaking loud. Like I'm speaking now louder than I have done the entire stream, and it's not peaking. But occasionally I say like make a point. Something pops. That's weird. I don't know, whatever. Get distracted. So yeah, I've got to do that in the future. I love that. So yeah, it's 2 episodes into strong. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I'm looking forward to seeing kind of the whole Wong introduction. And again, nah. Is it a nah sound? Is nah what's causing it to peak? That's really weird. Again, yeah, I just like the whole like we can explore from a kind of civilian perspective, even though I know Jennifer Walters isn't a civilian. She surrounds herself with civilian characters who are all open about talking about kind of, I mean, we were away from the microphone, maybe that's the issue, who are all open about talking about superheroism from the civilian perspective. That's what makes it about. So, thanks everyone for watching. I'm gonna finish my burger. Once I've done that, they've dropped a second trailer for Pinocchio. I'm going to watch that. Depending on how late it is and I have to go to work, I might do some gaming. I might not. I probably shouldn't. I probably should rest. I should have work tomorrow. So yeah. Why isn't this chat thing working? This is what I am I like logged in the wrong account? Apparently I am. Maybe I am logged in the wrong account. That makes sense. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was done. That was basically me being like, I'm doing my thoughts, reactions. So I will see you guys, yeah, later on today.